What if I told you a bad condition Monticello Jefferson nickel sitting in your pocket could be worth millions of dollars? In today's video, we're revealing 4 U.S. state Jefferson nickels that look ordinary, worn, and damaged, but because of rare errors, unique strikes, and hidden varieties, they've sold for unbelievable prices. Don't clean your coins, don't skip this video, because one small mistake could make you rich. Watch till the end, you might already own one of these nickels. First up, the Monticello Jefferson nickel dated 1970 with the D mint mark, especially when found in bad or heavily worn condition, is a classic example of ordinary U.S. circulating coinage that carries deep historical, economic, and educational significance despite having little monetary value. And understanding this coin requires looking not only at its physical state but also at the era in which it was produced, the design tradition it belongs to, and the long journey it likely experienced in everyday American life. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the primary U.S. mint facilities, and the small D mint mark, placed to the right of Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the obverse, identifies its place of origin, while the year 1970 situates it firmly in a period of social change, economic pressure, and transition in the United States. When inflation was rising, the Vietnam War was ongoing, and American coinage had recently undergone major composition changes, such as the removal of silver from dimes and quarters in the mid-1960s. The Jefferson nickel, however, remained a base metal coin, composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighing 5 grams, measuring 21.21 millimeters in diameter, and featuring a plain edge, making it durable enough for heavy circulation, which explains why so many 1970 D nickels survive today in poor or bad condition after decades of use in commerce. The obverse of the coin displays a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and principal author of the Declaration of Independence, along with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1970, while the reverse shows Monticello Jefferson's Virginia plantation and architectural masterpiece, accompanied by the inscriptions, "E pluribus unum, Monticello, 5 cents," and "United States of America," a design originally created by sculptor Felix Schlag and first introduced in 1938, remaining largely unchanged for more than 6 decades. In bad condition, the visual appearance of this coin tells a powerful story of wear and time, as Jefferson's facial features, his hair detail, cheekbone, jawline, and eye, are often smoothed down, sometimes appearing almost flat, while the lettering may be weak or partially worn, with "Liberty" and the date blending into the surface. And on the reverse, Monticello frequently loses its architectural sharpness, with the columns merging together and the famous steps at the base of the building nearly or completely gone, a detail that collectors carefully study in higher-grade examples but rarely see in circulated ones. Such heavy wear usually places the coin in grading categories like good G4 or very good VG8, where the main outlines remain visible but most fine detail has disappeared, and additional problems often found on bad condition examples include scratches, contact marks, rim nicks, edge bumps, uneven coloration, dark toning, dirt buildup, or even mild corrosion, all of which further reduce any collectible premium. From a market perspective, the 1970 D Jefferson nickel is extremely common, as the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of nickels that year, meaning supply far exceeds collector demand, and as a result, a heavily worn example is typically worth only its face value of 5 cents, with no additional premium unless it displays a rare and verifiable mint error such as an off-center strike, clipped planchette, major die crack, or other striking anomaly, which are uncommon and especially difficult to identify on worn coins. However, focusing solely on monetary value misses the broader importance of the coin, because for beginner collectors, educators, and hobbyists, a bad condition 1970D nickel serves as an excellent learning tool, helping people understand mint marks, coin grading, metal composition, and the effects of long-term circulation, while also illustrating how U.S. coins were designed to endure decades of use without losing their basic structure. Historically, this coin represents a time when Americans routinely used cash for daily transactions, long before digital payments became dominant, and it may have passed through countless hands, used in vending machines, parking meters, grocery stores, schools, buses, and small shops, quietly witnessing everyday life across generations. Culturally, the continued presence of Jefferson and Monticello on U.S. coinage reflects America's respect for its founding figures and architectural heritage, even as design debates and changes occurred in later years. For collectors who appreciate history rather than profit, a worn 1970D Jefferson nickel can be seen as a survivor coin, one that has fulfilled its intended purpose fully and honestly, absorbing the marks of time as evidence of service. And while it may never be rare, expensive, or visually stunning, it stands as a tangible reminder that even the most common objects can carry stories of a nation's economy, politics, technology, and daily life, making the bad condition Monticello Jefferson Nickel of 1970 with the D mint mark a humble yet meaningful artifact of American numismatic history. Next up, the Monticello Jefferson Nickel dated 1978 with no mint mark, especially when found in bad or heavily worn condition, is a very common yet historically meaningful example of late 20th century United States coinage, and understanding it fully involves examining its origin, design, composition, circulation history, condition issues, and its place within American economic and numismatic development. A 1978 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not use a P mint mark on nickels at that time, making the absence of a mint mark completely normal and not an error. This coin belongs to the long-running Jefferson Nickel series, first introduced in 1938 to honor Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, founding father, and principal author of the Declaration of Independence, replacing the Buffalo nickel and introducing a more classical and historically focused design that remained in use for more than 60 years. The obverse of the 1978 nickel features a left-facing portrait of Jefferson along with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1978, while the reverse shows Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia plantation and architectural achievement, with the inscriptions, "E Pluribus Unum, Monticello, 5 cents," and "United States of America," a design created by sculptor Felix Schlag that symbolized both Jefferson's intellect and America's early architectural heritage. The coin is composed of a durable copper-nickel alloy containing 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighs 5 grams, measures 21.21 millimeters in diameter, and has a plain edge, specifications that made it strong enough to endure decades of heavy circulation, which is why so many 1978 nickels survive today in poor or bad condition. In 1978, the United States was experiencing ongoing inflation, energy concerns, and economic adjustment following earlier metal value changes to U.S. coinage, but nickels continued to be produced in large quantities for everyday use in vending machines, parking meters, public transportation, and small retail transactions, leading to extensive wear on most examples. When a 1978 Jefferson nickel is described as being in bad condition, it typically means the coin shows heavy circulation wear, with Jefferson's hair details, cheek, jawline, and eye significantly flattened, the lettering weakened or partially merged into the surface, and the dates sometimes faint though still readable, while on the reverse, Monticello often appears soft and worn, with the columns blending together and the steps at the base nearly or completely worn away, a detail that collectors carefully examine on higher grade coins but almost never see clearly on circulated ones. Additional issues commonly found on bad condition examples include scratches, contact marks, rim dents, edge damage, dark toning, discoloration, dirt accumulation, and sometimes minor corrosion, all of which reduce eye appeal and eliminate any collector premium. From a grading perspective, such coins usually fall into good G4 or very good VG8 categories, where the main outlines are visible but most fine design details are gone, clearly demonstrating how long-term circulation affects coin surfaces. In terms of value, the 1978 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel is extremely common, with the Philadelphia Mint producing hundreds of millions of nickels that year, meaning supply vastly exceeds demand, and as a result, a heavily worn example is typically worth only face value, 5 cents, unless it features a rare and dramatic mint error such as a major off-center strike, clipped planchet, wrong planchet, or large die break, which are uncommon and difficult to identify on worn coins. Despite its low monetary worth, this coin holds strong educational and historical value, making it ideal for beginner collectors, students, and hobbyists who want to learn about mint marks, coin composition, grading standards, and the realities of circulation wear, while also serving as a tangible artifact of everyday American life in the late 1970s. Culturally and historically, the continued use of Jefferson and Monticello on U.S. coinage reflects the nation's respect for its founding ideals and figures, and a worn 1978 nickel may have passed through countless hands over decades. Used in schools, shops, laundromats, buses, arcades, and vending machines, quietly witnessing changes in technology, society, and the economy. For collectors who value history over profit, a bad condition 1978 no-mint mark Monticello Jefferson nickel can be appreciated as a true circulation survivor, a humble 5-cent piece that fulfilled its purpose completely, bearing the marks of time as proof of service, and while it may never be rare or valuable in the marketplace, it stands as a meaningful reminder that even the most ordinary coins carry stories of a nation's daily life, making this worn Jefferson nickel a small but authentic piece of American numismatic history. Next up, the Monticello Jefferson nickel dated 1972 with the D mint mark, particularly when found in bad or heavily circulated condition, is a classic and very common example of everyday United States coinage that tells a long story about American history, minting practices, and the realities of circulation. Even though it carries little monetary value today, this coin was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located on the obverse to the right of Thomas Jefferson's portrait, and it belongs to the long-running Jefferson Nickel series, first introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel, honoring Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and a key founding father whose influence on American democracy, education, and architecture remains deeply respected. The obverse design features a left-facing bust of Jefferson along with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1972, while the reverse displays Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia estate and architectural masterpiece, with the inscriptions, E pluribus unum, Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America, a design created by sculptor Felix Schlag that remained largely unchanged for decades and became one of the most familiar images in American pocket change. The 1972 D Jefferson nickel is composed of a durable copper-nickel alloy containing 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighs 5 grams, measures 21.21 millimeters in diameter, and has a plain edge, specifications designed for strength and longevity, which explains why these coins circulated heavily and why so many examples today appear worn or in poor condition. During the early 1970s, the United States was dealing with inflation, economic uncertainty, and social change, yet cash transactions remained central to daily life, and nickels like the 1972 D were widely used in vending machines, public transportation, parking meters, schools, and small retail purchases, exposing them to constant handling and abrasion over many decades. When a 1972D nickel is described as being in bad condition, it usually means the coin shows heavy circulation wear, with Jefferson's hair details, cheek, jawline, and eye smoothed nearly flat. The word, Liberty, and the date weakened are partially merged into the surface, and on the reverse, Monticello's architectural details, especially the columns and the steps, largely worn away, leaving only the basic outline of the building visible. Such coins often also exhibit scratches, nicks, rim dents, edge damage, dark toning, dirt buildup, discoloration, or minor corrosion, all of which reduce eye appeal and eliminate any collector premium. From a grading standpoint, bad condition examples typically fall into good G4 or very good VG8 categories, where the main design elements remain identifiable but most fine details are gone, making them useful teaching tools for learning how wear affects coin surfaces over time. In terms of value, the 1972D Jefferson nickel is extremely common, with the Denver Mint producing hundreds of millions of nickels that year, meaning the supply far exceeds collector demand, and as a result, a heavily worn example is generally worth only its face value of 5 cents, unless it displays a genuine and significant mint error such as a major off-center strike, clipped planchet, wrong planchet, or large die break, which are rare and difficult to find, especially on worn coins. Despite its lack of monetary value, the 1972D nickel still holds educational, historical, and cultural importance, particularly for beginner collectors and hobbyists who want to understand mint marks. U.S. mint production, coin composition, and grading basics without high cost or risk. Historically, this coin represents a time when American coinage was built to last, circulating for decades with minimal design changes, and a worn 1972D nickel may have passed through countless hands and locations: grocery stores, schools, laundromats, buses, arcades, and vending machines, quietly witnessing everyday life across generations. For collectors who appreciate history more than profit, a bad condition 1972D Monticello Jefferson nickel can be viewed as a circulation survivor, a humble artifact that fulfilled its intended role fully, carrying the marks of time as proof of service. And while it may never be rare, expensive, or visually impressive, it remains a meaningful reminder that even the most ordinary coins tell long stories about a nation's economy, technology, and daily life, making this worn Jefferson nickel a small but authentic piece of American numismatic history. Next up, the Monticello Jefferson nickel dated 1976 with the D mint mark, especially when found in bad or heavily circulated condition, is a very familiar piece of American pocket change that represents both the long tradition of the Jefferson Nickel series and the unique historical atmosphere of the United States during the bicentennial era. And although it is not rare or valuable in worn condition, it carries strong historical, educational, and cultural meaning. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small D mint mark located on the obverse to the right of Thomas Jefferson's portrait, and unlike the bicentennial quarter, half dollar, and dollar, the Jefferson nickel did not receive a special dual date or commemorative reverse in 1976, continuing instead with the standard Monticello design, which makes it an interesting contrast to other U.S. coins of that celebratory year. The Jefferson Nickel series itself began in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and was designed by sculptor Felix Schlag, whose depiction of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and a central figure in American history, became one of the longest-running portraits on U.S. coinage. The obverse of the 1976 D nickel features Jefferson's left-facing portrait along with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1976, while the reverse shows Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia plantation and architectural achievement, with the inscriptions, E pluribus unum, Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America, a design that symbolized American heritage and continuity at a time when the nation was celebrating 200 years of independence. The coin is composed of a strong copper-nickel alloy, 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighs 5 grams, measures 21.21 millimeters in diameter, and has a plain edge, making it resistant to wear and suitable for decades of circulation, which explains why so many 1976D nickels today are found in worn or poor condition. During the mid-1970s, the United States faced inflation, energy shortages, and economic adjustment following earlier changes in coin composition, yet coins like the 1976D nickel were still heavily used in everyday transactions such as vending machines, public transportation, parking meters, schools, and small retail purchases, leading to extensive wear over time. When described as being in bad condition, a 1976D Jefferson nickel typically shows heavy circulation wear, with Jefferson's hair details, cheekbone, jawline, and eye flattened or smoothed, the lettering weakened or partially merged into the coin's surface, and on the reverse, Monticello's fine architectural details, especially the columns and the steps, nearly or completely worn away, leaving only the general outline of the building visible. Additional problems commonly seen on bad condition examples include scratches, contact marks, rim dents, edge damage, dark or uneven toning, dirt buildup, and sometimes minor corrosion, all of which reduce eye appeal and remove any collectible premium. From a grading perspective, such coins usually fall into categories like good G4 or very good VG8, making them useful examples for learning how wear affects design elements and how coin grading standards are applied. In terms of market value, the 1976D Jefferson nickel is extremely common, with the Denver Mint producing hundreds of millions of nickels that year, meaning supply greatly exceeds collector demand, and as a result, a heavily worn example is generally worth only its face value of 5 cents, unless it displays a rare and significant mint error such as a major off-center strike, clipped planchet, wrong planchet, or dramatic die break, which are uncommon and difficult to find, especially on worn coins. However, beyond price, the 1976D nickel holds strong historical and educational value, especially because it circulated during the bicentennial period, when American pride, historical reflection, and national symbolism were at the forefront of public consciousness, and millions of Americans used coins like this every day without realizing they were part of a milestone year in the nation's history. For beginners and casual collectors, a worn 1976D Jefferson nickel is an ideal teaching coin for understanding mint marks, composition, grading, and circulation wear, while also serving as a tangible link to the social and economic life of the 1970s. For those who appreciate coins as historical artifacts rather than investments, a bad condition 1976D Monticello Jefferson nickel can be seen as a true circulation survivor, a humble 5-cent piece that did its job faithfully, passed through countless hands, shops, schools, and machines, and absorbed the marks of time as evidence of decades of service, making it a small but meaningful reminder that even the most ordinary coins carry long stories about a nation's daily life, history, and continuity. Please like and subscribe to my channel.